Alyssa.
Yes.
Alyssa.
I don't like this.
Oh, I have an idea. And it's a weird idea because normally we would do this probably during the episode.
Okay.
But I said, why not? This is our show. We can do what we want to do.
Okay.
I have a randomizer wheel.
All right.
Of Disney Channel shows.
Oh, God.
I'm going to spin this wheel. We're going to get 5 shows and we're going to speed rank them based off theme songs.
What if I don't remember the theme song?
We're going to skip them.
Okay. All right.
Do we like this idea or no?
Sure. Can go
okay.
with it.
Too bad. We're already going with it.
I was like, you already got us a randomized wheel up, so.
I did indeed. All right. Okay, well, I already don't know the first show, so we're going to skip that one.
What's the first show?
Stuck in the Middle.
Nope, not familiar.
Maybe this was a bad idea. Okay. Do you remember the theme song to Wizards of Waverly Place? No, everything's going to be a breeze. The slightest of ease.
You need to stop singing. Gotta stop. Gotta stop.
Do you remember it?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Everything is not as it seems. Yes, sung by Selena Gomez. Okay.
That's one of our shows.
All right.
We might only end up doing 4 based on how long this takes.
Okay.
Okay. So we got that one.
Okay.
I never saw Casey Undercover. I think it was Zendaya's show.
I'm not familiar. Sorry.
Okay. That's fine. Do I even remember? I should remember the theme song. We had to watch it. Good Luck, Charlie? I can't remember it.
I mean, to be fair, I watched one episode.
Okay.
So I don't remember.
Let's skip that.
I know the actress, Bridget Mendler, she sang it.
Yes. Okay, our next show. Oh, perfect. Hannah Montana.
Excellent. I got that one unlocked.
Yes. Okay. I feel momentum shifting.
Okay.
I feel momentum is in our favor. Next show. Look at that. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Okay. Is there anything on here from before 2006?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it has all the shows.
Okay.
It's a very large wheel.
Okay. That's fine.
All right. Next. Oh, do you remember the theme song for Phineas and Ferb?
It's by Fall Out Boy, right? Or Green Day? Phineas and Ferb are gonna do it all. It's definitely one of those pop punk bands does the... I remember it enough, yes.
Okay. We just need one more. And we have ended... Oh! We ended on Lizzie McGuire.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so take a moment. Take a moment.
All right, and we're ranking them based on best,
just
theme song.
How much you enjoy them.
How much I enjoy them. So not how much how good they think they
are.
Well,
I mean, part of ranking a theme song is, if you enjoy it.
Okay.
However your ranking looks to you. I'm going based off the ones I like.
Okay. I'll try to think about the ones I watched, which ones brought me the most joy.
Okay, I am done.
Okay.
I took that speed rank serious.
I guess I could have written numbers next to the words instead of rewriting.
That's what I did.
Again. Yeah, that would have been faster. Okay, I got an order.
All right, why don't you start?
Okay, Hannah, I don't think this will surprise you that my number 5 is Wizards of Waverly Place. Hannah's aware that I, a lot of the time, do not love Selena Gomez as a singer. Nothing against her personally. It's just I find a lot of her songs just don't make me happy. And this one, I feel like, while I remember, I'm not like, oh my god, the Wizard of Waverly Place theme song. It's just like, yep, it's just hanging out.
Yeah, I put it number 5. I don't have anything against Selena Gomez. Wizards of Waverly Place was a show that we didn't watch that much. I think I've seen episodes here and there. So I just didn't watch it a lot. It doesn't stick in my memory that much. I think it's a fine theme song, just nothing special.
Yeah. Number 4, I have Phineas and Ferb. I know a lot of people who love this show. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the theme song. I just barely watched it. So though I remember the theme song, I really have no connection to the show. Yeah. And therefore, that's why it's number 4.
Yeah, I have it at number 4 as well. Like you said, we didn't really watch it. I had a lot of friends who were obsessed with it. I like pop punk. I feel like it's a theme song. If I had watched the show a bunch, I probably would have really enjoyed.
Yeah. Number 3, I have Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I like it. I mean, when I was watching the episode, spoiler, that's one of the episodes we're doing. Also, this whole episode is about Disney Channel, but you probably saw that from the title.
Yeah.
It brought back nostalgia. I liked it. But the guy who wrote this song did a bunch of them. Like, also did Fill the Future, also did a bunch of them. So I'm like, it's good, but could be better.
Yeah, I put number 3, Sweet with Zack and Cody. It's memorable just because of how often we watch the show, but yeah, I'm not super impressed by it.
Number 2, I have Hannah Montana. Miley Cyrus in her youth singing Best of Both Worlds. It was a banger. Mm-hmm. I was on the cusp of being a little too old for Hannah Montana, but Hannah really loved it, so I watched a lot of the show.
Yeah.
A lot. So that one feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, I put Hannah Montana. You're right. I did love Hannah Montana. I hated the name thing because everyone at school thought it was fun to call me that. I was a fan of her music. We had her CD from the show, like her first CD she put out, basically.
Your birthday, I think.
Yeah,
or something.
And I played the shit out of that CD. It was great.
Did.
But yeah, so I put it as number 2. And number 1,
Lizzie McGuire.
it's a classic.
It's a classic.
Sometimes you make it.
If you believe, Hannah.
And I love how they did the giant red dodgeball,
the target ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Falling from the ceiling.
Sometimes you
Classic.
make it. Sometimes you fake it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes,
Disney.
Hannah, you figure it out on the way.
On the way. Welcome, fellow researchers. I don't know why I said that. This is Research Rake Repeat. This is co-host Hannah.
This is co-host Alyssa.
Yeah. Are you a researcher?
I mean, yeah. I literally work for a research lab, so I am in theory a researcher, yes. Involved with research in real life, not just this show.
I don't know where this went.
Welcome. Okay, we've got an episode. We're finally, Hannah, are you excited? We've finally come back to pilots.
Yes, I love pilots.
We have not touched a pilot, I think, since 2022 or early 2023.
The last time you got kicked off a plane. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Can't fly Spirit Airlines. She's got that restraining order.
I got a little tipsy and, no, I actually am not. Let's not joke about it.
No.
Because there are people who have been banned from planes just because
yes.
incredibly asshole-ish. That was a good joke, though. I appreciated the joke. But I think the last time we did pilots was superhero pilots. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Because we did finales.
Yeah, we had done finales.
I think you're right.
Year.
I think CW's superhero shows last year was the last time we did pilots.
And let me preface this by saying we plan to do this. Did you not like the way I said that word?
You said preface. Your voice got really high.
Okay. Excuse me.
It's fine.
Preface. I could preface it. We could go with either one. I think they're both acceptable. By saying that we meant to do this last summer, but what do you think happened? The writer's strike. And we said,
we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it.
So we had to delay it. And then we had other things we wanted to do, so it had to get pushed back a little bit. But now we're here. We watched 8 Disney Channel live-action pilots.
Yeah.
We tried to pick a good selection of new to old, ones we had seen, ones we hadn't seen. Because Hannah and I were big Disney Channel live-action watchers. Channel 26. Yeah. Channel 26.
Channel 26. Let's just talk about that for a minute. Yeah. I mean, in our household, we rotated between Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and
Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network, which Cartoon Network, our mom was not a fan of some of the shows. Yeah. Ed, Ed, and Eddie was not.
She hated that show.
Yeah, so we usually watched that when our dad was around and my mom was at work.
She also didn't like Courage or the Billy and Mandy.
Yeah.
She didn't like a lot of Cartoon Network shows.
But yeah, we rotated between those 3 channels, basically. Mm-hmm. PBS a little bit because we'd watch Arthur in the morning.
PBS, and then clearly ABC and some Fox for American Idol. There were some select
some
channels.
But I would say majority of our time was spent on Disney. Disney Channel and Nick occupied at least a lot of my time. But yeah, Disney Channel. I mean, we definitely were like very.
Hang on one second. It's like super windy out. I just want to make sure there's no. I didn't think there was any tornado. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, it's okay. That radar.
But yeah, we were big Disney kids.
Yeah,
you're watching the Disney Channel
and the yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
I think we phased out. I think Hannah Montana was probably one of my last shows I watched.
You watched a little bit of Sunny with a Chance. Like a tiny bit.
Very
like
rarely.
A little bit of Sweet Life on Deck, like a tiny
and
bit.
like Wizards of Waverly Place,
Yeah.
I kind of got a little tail end of that. But I think around the time, like Hannah Montana was the last show I remember like really watching.
No, I feel like 2008 to 2009 is when we started to kind of phase out. And we were watching hard hitters like Degrassi. And
America's Next Top Model.
America's Next Top Model, yeah. And Secret Life of the American Teenager. I think that was about when that...
And Make It or Break It.
We were old enough for ABC Family shows.
That's when we kind of switched to the ABC Family.
Yeah, we're like, we're adults now. We can watch adult shows.
But yeah, I mean, we had like some of the like merch. Like I remember getting.
I definitely had something Lizzie McGuire for sure.
And I'm pretty sure I had like a T-shirt, and I think it might have been like Hannah Montana inspired. And we had like the posters that you would hang up in the room.
Oh yeah,
like,
we did.
That came in the magazines, and we had CDs. I mean,
I definitely had a Lizzie McGuire CD.
Yeah,
like from the movie.
Yeah,
I think just based on the show. We had on tape. We had like Even Stevens, the movie.
Yeah.
We had on VHS tape. Same with I know it's animated. We also at some point talked about doing animated. We had the Proud Family movie also on VHS tape as well. Hannah, do you remember this? I like specifically remember, and this will come up as one of our first shows. Specifically remember waiting for the premiere of Raven Goes to the Country, like to meet her family. It's basically like what's the Nutty Professor?
Like
Tyler
Medea's family reunion.
Yeah, where basically she plays all of her family members.
Yep.
It's the same kind of thing, and they had the gravy boat was like the
yeah.
And I remember just like we were like so excited for like the premiere of That's So Raven,
the Not So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, the crossover.
They do. I will talk about that.
Yes,
it comes up in my my background.
Yeah, but we definitely spent a lot of time watching Disney Channel.
Absolutely,
things, including like Disney Channel original movies. Yeah. So we were big Disney kids, to say the least. Which should not surprise you because of how many Disney related things we've discussed.
Yeah, clearly.
Done.
And let me clarify this. We are not Disney adults. I want this to be known. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Disney adult.
No.
I'm not a Disney adult. I just have nostalgia for my past with Disney.
Yeah.
Reflecting on the past, enjoying animation. I'm not a Disney adult. I'm going to put that out there.
No.
Correct. As I look at my chip teacup that I have from Beauty and the Beast, but I'm not a Disney adult.
Not a Disney adult. There's a difference.
We're researchers, god damn it.
Yeah. We have to do it for the show. I like doing pilots.
Pilots are fun.
We get to write our own summaries. This is the first time we wrote our own summaries, which was really fun.
In a while, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done it in a while. They're always fun, and I was very grateful these shows were only like 20 minutes max, like 20 to 25 minutes, because...
makes it easy.
Some of those shows, when they get to like 45 minutes to an hour, it takes forever. And we don't have time.
The superhero pilots took a long time.
Yeah.
Because I think we did 13 or 11.
We did a lot, and they were also longer shows.
Yeah.
We've learned.
We
But yeah,
number 8. We're doing 8.
This is a first batch. I mean, at some point we might hit it again and do another 8.
Yeah, because we tried to make sure like clearly we also like another show we watched a lot of. Even Stevens was another show we watched a lot of.
Yeah.
So we tried to like pick and choose. Like, okay, we definitely watched a lot of this show around this time frame, so we'll try to space it out between like certain things.
Give us some variety.
You know, I'd love to hit Phil the Future at some point as well. Great show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have just like a tiny bit of just specifically Disney Channel background. I try to keep it focused only on live action shows.
Yes.
So the Disney Channel, I need to make that clarification. The Disney Channel launched in 1983, and it was specifically like the wording was a little weird for me because we're not old enough to like understand like what kind of pre-cable was.
Yeah.
So I was trying to follow. It sounded like it was like a private channel, like almost like a pay-per-view channel maybe.
Okay.
Or something in 1983.
Interesting.
And it was mainly targeted as programming towards families. It didn't make a profit until 1985. So it took 2 years before it turned profit, this channel.
Okay.
And in 1990, so 7 years after it launched, Montgomery, Alabama, home of Flea Market Montgomery, it's just like a mini mall, was the first place to add that channel to basic cable. So that's when the first time it became basic cable. So then in 1997, they rebranded from the Disney Channel to Disney Channel. A huge change. Dropping the because they're serious now. And that's kind of when like the beginning of like when the Disney Channel as we knew it growing up was kind of taking shape when they leaned heavily into Disney Channel original movies. That's like the famous Jet Jackson. I don't know if you remember that show. We watched a little bit of it, but that one launched in 1998, so it was kind of the start of like that generation of Disney that we grew up on. And that one was then shifted to target ages 7 to 17. So they kind of shifted the way that they were marketing the channel. And at that point, I think it was a little unclear, but it sounded like around that time is when it was basically a basic cable channel, for us, Channel 26, where it would just be included with, you know, your normal channels. So, to my knowledge, and if someone wants to correct me, feel free to, but what I found was the first live action show on the Disney Channel was called Teen Angel, released in 1989. I don't know if it was a mini-series, because it only ran from 1989 to 1989. And then there was, the next show was called Teen Angel Returns, that ran from 1989 to 1989.
Interesting.
There was also, like, they had separated it between comedies and drama. So apparently this was a comedy. There was no Wikipedia article. I should say a lot of my information was taken from most trusted source, Wikipedia, of course, as always. Yes. And I didn't dig too much into it, but Teen Angel is apparently what it was called. Okay. First Disney Channel show.
Interesting.
It was kind of a different vibe, though. Very different feel than the more modern style. Because it looked like, based on like the first one I recognized was Famous Jet Jackson, which was from 1998. Yes. And I was like, okay, that one I remember, I recognize the name, so.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's what I got. Just some basic Disney Channel facts.
Yeah, and I mean, we have background on the shows. We split these up.
We did, 4 and 4.
So, do you want to start or should I start? I guess I can start since you
why don't you
did
start?
A little.
Do we generally go in order when we do these, or we just do whatever we feel like?
We kind of just do whatever.
Okay. I was trying to remember and I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going based off my first show that I have written down.
What is your first show you've written down?
What?
What's your first show you've written down?
Pretty freaking scary.
Okay. Oh, we can start with that. But can I just say, disclaimer, fuck Disney. Yeah. Can you, excuse me? What are you doing between the years of, I would imagine, 1988 to 2006? They just were not airing their episodes in order.
Yeah.
Where it's like, so Hannah and I did our best to find the actual real pilots of these shows, and and a lot of the times they were not the first episode. The newer shows, the first episode I could find was Production Code 101, because I went off production codes, I went off comments on blog posts, I went off of like whatever information I could find. And Disney Channel Disney Plus has them in the order they aired, which is not the order they were produced in. So like, what are you doing? Do you think kids are that dumb that they're not going to notice, like, oh, somebody looks like a year younger in this one specific 5th episode than they did the first episode, you know?
Yeah. I do have a note about it for later on.
Okay, great. But anyway, just want to put that out first and foremost. I want to give 2 big middle fingers up for making our lives difficult. And I got to say, off the bat, one of the shows we definitely...
I'm trying to make the mouse.
You're watching Disney Channel. So we definitely, one pilot we didn't get right. But we both had watched that episode, so we just committed to it. But I'm just going to tell you right now, one of them we didn't get the real pilot.
No.
Oops.
Whatever.
Sorry. We did our best.
Okay. Pretty freaking scary. This show brand spanking new in that it came out in 2023. I was very confused. I thought this was an older show, and then I Googled it, and I was like, this is really new. Is this a reboot? And then I realized this was the show. So this show came out last year in 2023. Only has one season with 20 episodes, and a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is very high. I was surprised. So, this pilot aired on June 15th, 2023. The show is described as an American fantasy horror comedy.
Mouthful.
And it was, yes, a lot. It was created by Jason P. Hauser. Initially, so it's kind of weird. So, initially, this concept was a product range produced by American Greetings, like with the American Greetings cards, that was announced in June of 2006, and it debuted as an accessory line sold in Walmart stores during the 2007 Halloween season.
The show or the what?
The
concept?
Like, the concept of it,
okay.
like was it initially like
cards?
Well, they had like accessories, like Halloween accessories, so I don't know if it didn't really specify what it included.
Okay.
But the concept for it started in 2006. That's what I got out of it.
Sure.
Anyways.
Sure, whatever you say.
I don't know. It's Wikipedia. They're always right.
Always right every time.
So,
Never
on
wrong.
October 13th, 2022, Disney gave a 20-episode series order. It seems as if, from what I'm reading, that the show is assumed to have been canceled as it has not been renewed at this point.
Okay.
So the pilot episode was called Back to Life, and it's directed by Wendy Ferrone and written by Jason Hauser. So interesting, the first 7 episodes were released on Disney Plus on June 13th, which resulted in episodes 3 through 7 being released prior to their television premieres.
Oh.
So they released, like, the day
Okay.
after they premiered episode 1 and 2 on Disney Channel, they released episodes 1 through 7.
Okay.
And then, so 3 through 7, like, if you had seen them on Disney Plus, you would have been, like, rewatching them as they came out on the Disney Channel.
Okay.
The viewership numbers are a little weird because of the Disney Plus thing, but
Right.
from Disney Channel, it estimated 0.13 million viewers.
Okay.
Which is pretty low.
It's pretty low, but it's also, like, I don't feel like ratings carry
It's
the same
hard with,
weight.
yeah. It's hard with streaming.
With streaming, that
We've seen that again and again.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that was pretty much all the background I could find, since it's a relatively newer show that only has
Very
one
fair.
season. And now I have my summary.
Ooh, yes, of course.
Frankie is a cell phone obsessed Gen Zer who falls into a manhole one day and dies. She goes to the underworld and meets the Grim Reaper, who admits she made a mistake, but has Frankie sign a contract, which of course she doesn't read. She returns to school 2 weeks later, and in true teen fashion, no one cares and everyone has moved on. She has been brought to life, but at what cost, as she now will act as the Grim Reaper's personal assistant.
Yeah. This gave heavy Beetlejuice energy.
Yeah.
Got a lot of Beetlejuice. But can we just talk about, and I understand they're going for a comedy angle, but if my child died for 2 weeks and then came back to life,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be that nonchalant.
Yeah, the parents were so chill about it.
I don't think anyone would be that nonchalant. Because I thought of, you remember that one ABC Family pilot we watched where that kid got abducted and disappeared for like 8 years?
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it and I didn't care to look it up. But remember the family was so like, it was such like a difficult thing.
Right.
Like they had to adjust and it was very real. And I was like, this is not. Like they're very much playing for comedy. And I get it, but like it feels really weird. Like it feels weird. Like they didn't push the comedy enough to match like that type of energy. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that they had her, because I thought they were going to have her come back and it was going to be like no time had passed and she like hadn't died. So yeah, to have them go forward 2 weeks and then the parents just be like, oh, you're alive, and they didn't think it was that strange.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting concept.
I think so too. It was, I will say, so I watched this and a pilot that had aired in 2003 back to back. And the whiplash of like lingo, dialogue, like boba, where I was like, boba, front and center.
Right.
They did still have book covers though, and I appreciated the book covers.
Yeah.
The AI house exterior was a little upsetting.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, this town they live in is called Snickering Willows.
Yep.
It's the most Midwest-looking main street I've ever seen in my life, except there's no boba, which is pretty fair. I think the Midwest has come around. They're like, we can have things that are not, that are different.
Right.
We adopted frozen yogurt. We can adopt boba.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting how watching this show compared to some of these earlier pilots, like, you can tell it's, like, more, like, the dad's not very masculine and, like, isn't afraid to show emotions, and, like, I feel like it's very, like, true to the times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also thought it was interesting, I feel like they brought up a lot of good, like, without outwardly saying it, I feel like they brought up a lot of good, like, cultural things almost.
Yeah.
Like, I mentioned in my summary about, like, this culture of high schoolers where, like, relationships happen so quickly and people move on in a week, and, like, people friends, like, it's just like that stuff does actually happen. I remember, like, kids in high school would be dating, and then, like, a week later they were dating someone else, and, like, so I think it's interesting how they, like, brought that point up, and also, like, the whole, like, no one reads fucking contracts, like, that's so true, especially not that big of a contract, especially not a kid.
When I went to go buy my car lease, I was given a contract, and I started to read it because I'm signing a contract.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, usually people don't take that long to sign it. And I'm like, because I'm reading the contract that I'm signing, to get a vehicle.
Right, you want to know what you're signing for.
I want to make sure it's, like, everything's good that we agreed on and stuff.
But yeah, so I think it was interesting how I sort of see, like, this culture of high schoolers, and, like, it was interesting
and
to
being
see
obsessed with your phone where she doesn't look and falls down a manhole, like an open manhole.
Right.
I also really appreciated that the actress is supposed to be a volleyball player, and she was objectively very tall. And, like, taller than the guy that she was, I think it was her boyfriend, or they were dating and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, good for you. Like, glad,
Yeah.
But I did like, speaking of that, like, moving on really quickly thing, there was a line that, I don't remember what his name was, but the guy who she had been dating, he was like, when you fell into that manhole, I was super bummed. I was like that one kind of made me laugh a bit. That's kind of funny.
But yeah, I think it was an interesting concept. I think it's nice to see.
It's, like, unique. Like, I feel like it has, elements of it that I think are pretty unique. That type of, like, the type of show that's like that.
Yeah, and I liked that it was, like, a diverse cast. I did notice at one point there was, like, a pride flower in the background, and so it's, like, it's cool to see more of these, like, things that
It's interesting. The further we got into the pilots, the more, like, blended families, step siblings, like, basically, like, totally normal things, but we didn't see from, early 2000s was not really a common thing. So
yeah. I think some of the humor was a little bit, like, but I also have to remember that
it's intended for kids who are, 10 years old.
It was a little bit hard, some of these pilots, because some of them were still really funny as an adult, and I laughed, and then some of them were like, this is geared for kids. I have to remember, like, it's for kids. So, but yeah, I think overall, though, like, it was entertaining. Like, I was definitely entertained by it.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I was a child, would I like the show? And the answer is probably.
I think we would have.
I probably would have liked it.
Because we kind of like the mysterious, and we kind of like that concept, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. Do you have a favorite character?
I went with, I don't know her name, but it's the girl that ends up becoming her friend.
Oh, with the hair, the streak of hair.
Kind of like the goth-looking girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember her name
I kind of related to her, because at the beginning of the episode, like, the girl was trying to high-five her, and she was like, no, don't do that. And I was like, that's me. And also, like, I liked at the end how she was, like, a person who could ground her and, like, stick up for her. And I think I have sort of that cynical sense of humor that she does, and I appreciate that, so.
Yeah, I thought Frankie as, like, a lead was a pretty good character. I thought she was interesting. I didn't find her too obnoxious. Like, I did not like her younger brother, but I feel like every younger brother is always a pain in the ass.
They're kind of meant to be annoying and, like,
but yeah, I thought she worked pretty well in the show.
Yeah. I did have a favorite line.
Okay.
At one point, I can't even remember who said it, but the line was, all I'm saying is you can't just die and expect that to fix everything. And I said, yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
I put that one line I said earlier about, like, when you fell in the manhole, I was super bummed. Because I thought the timing of that was pretty funny. I thought it worked pretty well.
Scene, just because I thought it was a creative way to show an adult concept, was the man who went to hell at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the elevator just dinged down, and you just hear screaming. And I was like, that's kind of creative way to do that.
Like
I respected that.
It's the implication.
Yes, the implication's there. Yes.
Yeah. And then would I watch it? I said maybe. I said, it's hard to say because I'm like, based on what I saw, like, clearly as an adult, I'm not going to watch it. But as a child, I'm like, if I would have been the age group that was intended for, I might have watched it. Yeah. I could see that.
I think I probably at least would have tried. And it's only, I mean, it was only a season.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would have, like, at least given it a chance because that's the kind of stuff we would have been into.
Yeah. I was like, I could see it.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Cool.
So now we're going to do one of mine.
Yes. And you can pick whichever one you want.
I'm going to really flip back that clock.
Oh.
We're going all the way back to 2001. Lizzie McGuire, baby.
Lizzie.
All right, I got a lot of background. Is that anyway surprising? So, Lizzie McGuire. And let me just say now, hashtag let Lizzie fuck.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that because I've been stewing on this for years, Hannah. So,
I know.
Lizzie McGuire is an American comedy series by Terry Minsky, a studio film. So it was not filmed in front of a live studio audience like a lot of the shows were at the time. Mm-hmm. It was on a studio film and on actual shot locations. So it stars the actress Hilary Duff as Lizzie, who is trying to navigate her teenage years with friends. There's also an animated version of herself that expresses her inner monologue as almost as like a Greek chorus that shows up in a lot of Greek plays and things where there's a exterior monologue from like an entity that's not the main character. So they're kind of emulating that feeling, but with like a teenage girl who's going through puberty, trying to live her life. The show ran from 2001 to 2004. You gotta stop that. 2001 to 2004. It technically only ran for 2 seasons because Disney did this weird thing where they'd have 65 episodes in 2 seasons. So it ran for 4 years, but it was 2 seasons. It also had a feature-length film released in theaters called The Lizzie McGuire Movie in 2003. It made a total of $55.6 million worldwide, which honestly is pretty good.
For a Disney movie, yeah.
And do you remember if we watched this in theaters? I feel like we would have, but I don't remember seeing it in theaters.
I feel like I remember seeing it at home for the first time.
Let's be upfront. Hannah and I have collectively seen the Lizzie McGuire movie at least 10 to 20 times, for sure, at minimum. Minimum 10 times, definitely more. I've watched it last year.
I've seen it 20 times at least.
I watched it last year. I've watched it a lot. It shows up a lot. We had it on DVD, so watched it many times.
Yeah.
A staple in our household. We love the movie. It's a fantastic viewing experience. If you've never seen it, you could watch it without even having seen the show.
Yes.
And you'd still enjoy it. In 2019, the show was revived. They were planning to have a reboot of Lizzie McGuire. Many of the cast members were returning, including Hilary Duff, her whole family, her parents, her friend Gordo.
Yes.
And would also be written and produced by Terry Minsky, who created the show. During COVID, they had filmed episodes. It was supposed to be Lizzie as a 30-something-year-old living in New York. Mm-hmm. She finds out her fiance or boyfriend is cheating on her, and she moves back home to her family, and then that's when the story kind of picks up from there. But there were issues, and by 2020, December, the show was canceled. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about what the problem was. The problem is they wouldn't let Lizzie fuck. They wanted a show that was focused on a 30-year-old to have the control of a show intended for an 8-year-old.
Right.
And it's there's ways that you can show things without being grotesque and over the top.
Yeah.
There's tons of teenage shows that do that. And I remember Hilary Duff went on social media or something being can you move the show to Hulu to be intended for more adult audience? Because they had done that with Love, Simon and I think some of the other shows. that were like intended for an older audience. They moved to Hulu, but Love Victor, thank you. The sequel, yes, right.
Love Simon's the movie,
right? And then Love Victor was the show, right?
Yeah.
And then the creative Minsky left due to creative differences, and then the show fell apart. So I don't think we're ever gonna see it, which is so upsetting.
Yeah,
because it's like if you're rebooting a show that was for teenagers, and your actress is a 30-year-old, like. All the people watching the show are also going to be like 20 to 30-year-old women. Yeah. What do you think you're doing? Like, who are you making the show for?
I do find it a little bit interesting that they didn't originally try to get it through like another studio.
Well, probably because Disney owns the rights.
Well, yeah, but like it's hard because I get Disney's perspective of like they have a certain marketing,
but they own
and like
Hulu, you know,
right? So that's what I'm saying.
And
like,
they had done it. There's
control.
A precedent. They have moved things to Hulu
because it's like I think the target audience would have been people who are our age, who are watching the original show. Like, oh my god, why am I blanking? Girl Meets World.
Oh yeah, right.
And I think it was kind of that one was I think they went a little bit more like kiddish, but
also they were focused on their children,
right? But I think like a lot of people who watched Boy Meets World who were fans would have been intrigued to watch that, and like Fuller House, like people did that.
But again, it's all and Raven's
it's focused on the kids.
It's focused on the kids. This would have been focused on Lizzie as an adult, which is a very different vibe than than having it like be focused on this next generation of children. So. I think that's the main problem, the way I see it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, though. Sucks.
It is.
It's unfortunate. Sad times. But to not spend too much time on that, the show had 2 Emmy Award nominations. Actually, the pilot was nominated for Best Children's Script at the Writers Guild of America Awards.
Nice.
Which I thought was kind of fun. And that's how I was able to find out what the real pilot was, because I found out that tidbit, and I followed that to figure out which episode was nominated.
Right.
The original working title of the show was called What's Lizzie Thinking?
Interesting.
And then it was changed to be Lizzie McGuire. But Hilary Duff was asked to audition for the role because they wanted her to be in that. The animated version of the character, like Lizzie's character, was created by producer Stan Rego as a talking head in the corner of the screen was what it was originally envisioned as. So he pitched that idea like, hey, you should have like a talking head in the corner. But then Deborah Solomon, who is an animator and has worked on a lot of television and film, was asked to design animated Lizzie, and she designed it based off of Hilary Duff's audition tape.
Okay.
And then adjusted it a little bit to make her look more hip, like, because her alter ego is supposed to be a little bit more sassy and fashionable and, you know, a little bit more than her, like, average, you know, real life character.
Yeah.
They only had the budget for animation for 2 minutes an episode.
Okay.
So only 2 minutes an episode is what they could afford probably initially to have like in the show, which I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize it was that low, but I guess it makes sense. You kind of throw them in a little snippets.
I was going to say they didn't do very long segments, so that makes sense.
Right. So the show was canceled in 2003 after contract disagreements, and a pilot was actually ordered focusing on her friend Miranda's younger sister, which was going to be called What's Stevie Thinking? The character of Stevie was to be played by Selena Gomez.
Interesting.
They filmed a pilot. It was produced in 2005, but a different show was chosen instead to be produced as a full show. What show do you think that was, Hannah? 2005.
Is it Hannah Montana?
It's Hannah Montana. Yeah. It's chosen over What's Stevie Thinking. But then Selena Gomez got a show anyway in the end, so.
Interesting.
All right, so here's some weird things that occurred. So the series premiere of the show was January 12th, 2001. It was a sneak peek of an episode, not the pilot, that was premiering after Xenon, the sequel.
Yeah.
The show then officially premiered on January 19th, which was also not the pilot, episode 2. The show was said to be relatable to everyone, showcased realistic friendships, was good-natured, was very, like, realistic in the way they portrayed teenagers, like, going through puberty and figuring out middle school and things like that. I have 2 more things, then I'll get back to the pilot, because there's a lot of, like, timeline things to go over with that. So, A lot of the money of the show was through merch, which we had merchandise of Lizzie McGuire. It made a ton of money for Disney. They also had a partnership with McDonald's where they sold toys based on Lizzie McGuire, which I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Occurring. But they also sold dolls, bed sets, books, games, etc. By 2003 March, so this is like 2 months after the premiere of the show, merch had earned nearly $100 million.
Jeez.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the timeline. This is where it got confusing. So this is where Disney really fucked us over. So the pilot episode of the show is called Pool Party.
Yes.
It is the 4th episode in order of the show.
Yeah.
So episode 4 of season 1. The pilot was filmed 6 months before the show was actually produced. That was Jake Thomas, who played Lizzie's younger brother, Matt, had said that in a podcast somewhat recently. It was the first episode produced 6 months before the rest of the show, but it did not premiere until February 2nd. So the first episode to premiere was called Rumors, which was episode 5.
Okay.
And then after Pool Party premiered, so when that 4th episode came out on February 2nd, they replayed Rumors after it because it was technically the 5th episode. Disney's official site lists Picture Day as episode 1, which is technically the 2nd episode that aired. So it's like, what are you going to do? There's no pilot stats because it wasn't the first episode aired, and
Right.
Disney doesn't have like stats that early about like their viewership. The best I could find is that it averaged 2.3 million viewers per episode is what I could find. So
Interesting.
it was very confusing. I had to go down a real rabbit hole to figure out what the actual pilot was in the order and how things aired because it made no sense. It was very ridiculous.
Right.
Which will happen more than once.
Yeah, and I'm
unfortunately.
glad you watched it, figured it out first because I hadn't watched it yet, and you let me know, so it kind of saved me some time, which was
Yeah.
good. Because I didn't get so lucky with another show, and I watched it, and then you immediately
I
texted me,
know.
"This is the pilot." I said, "Well, I guess I'm watching episode 2."
I know. Yeah. Because I had texted you. I was like, I watched this episode. I went online because I thought it was weird pilot. And then it was like, oh, this is actually like episode 4. And I was
Yeah.
like, so can I just pretend this is the pilot? Or are we gonna, what are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I got. Sorry,
Yeah.
there's a lot of background.
No.
It's one of their bigger Disney shows. So
No, I mean,
yeah.
like we were obsessed with this show.
Oh, love this show. Yeah.
We love
absolutely.
the movie.
Fashion?
Yeah.
The fashion.
Yeah, and that soundtrack from the movie. But yeah, I think
Sing to be palo.
to be palo. I think what you said in the background was kind of true. Is that like it felt very relatable.
Yeah.
As someone, as a younger like female growing up, I remember watching this show and like it felt like things you could relate to, like what was happening in real life. I remember there was an episode all about bras,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh wow, this is great. Because I
Yeah.
felt like a lot of TV shows at that time weren't really covering topics like that, or they were covering them in like a very joking manner,
Or like superficial. kind of
right,
way.
and not like
Yeah.
actually like be willing to have the conversations. I remember there's an episode
Right.
where like Miranda passes out because she's not eating because of
Yeah,
body
she's an
image.
eating disorder. Yeah.
And so I think it was cool how they tackled these like pretty heavy subjects, but did
It's-
it?
It's how I learned about the Torah.
Yeah.
Is from Gordo having
Yeah.
to read the Torah at his bar mitzvah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it was cool that they covered some topics that other shows at the time weren't doing, and did it like in like a respectful way, but still had comedy. Still made it like where it could be a little
Right.
lighthearted too, because it is for kids. Yeah. I mean, it just even watching this episode, it was like nostalgia. Like there was a reference about Gap, and I was like, oh.
Can I do my summary first?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was trying. I didn't want to cut you off, but I was like, I haven't said
Sorry,
my
I
summary
forgot.
yet.
I got so excited.
Yeah, no, you're good. No,
Okay.
you're fine. Can I do? All right, I'll do my summary, and then we can get into it
Yes.
because I certainly have a lot of thoughts.
Yes.
But I was like, I should probably do this before I forget. It's 2001. Butterfly clips and capris are peak fashion for a young middle schooler just like Lizzie McGuire. She's just a normal girl with an animated version of herself that speaks her inner thoughts. When a dreamy boy invites her to a pool party, she must learn to balance friendship, conflict, puberty, and figure it out on the way. I got really upset because Kate, her like frenemy who, like, basically she got a bra and then they no longer could be friends because she, you know, had gone through puberty. She has, like, the fringe, like, the, like, layering fringe, and I'm like, I had that haircut when I was 10.
Yeah.
Like, I had that layering, like, long fringe, like, layered look, and I was like, God damn it, I had that. I wore that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think the show is, like, very, like, nostalgic.
Absolutely. I think I really appreciate that they frame Lizzie as just a normal, uninteresting, average teenager. She's not, there's nothing special about her. She's not super smart. She's not super athletic. She doesn't, like, have anything that she's super, like, amazing at. Because I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of these characters in these shows have superpowers or they're, like, you know, like, have something special about them. And it's very grounded and, like, realistic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I also... This was actually, so once this reboot was announced, I actually in 2020 had started watching the show again. So I watched this episode in 2020 when I was going through, I think it got through like maybe 15 to 20 episodes.
Yeah, I did
during
too.
COVID. So I like was familiar enough with it where I was like, I actually kind of remember it just because I had seen it a few years ago. But it was like, the references were so interesting because it was like the women's soccer focus, because that's when the U.S. soccer team was amazing.
I said immediately started off with the Brandy Chastain sports bra World Cup reference is wild.
I said already pick up on the U.S. women's soccer and Britney outfits. Like oops, or hit me baby one more time outfits. Yeah, like immediately. The butterfly clips. There were like, I thought this, like, honestly, this pilot holds up really well. Like, there's a lot of really good things about it. Like, certainly the culture is very different, you know? But, like, for instance, Gordo with a hacky sack and the long sleeves under short sleeves look that, like, was a very common reference of Judge Judy. I thought that was funny, too. But I thought, like, the themes were still, like, work, you know? Like, the themes hold up. And, like, the family values. Like, I really like this idea that... You know, Lizzie's mom, she's just doing her best. Like, she's trying. Her dad is an idiot, but he also is very, like, emotionally sensitive.
He cares, he just doesn't understand.
And he cares. Yeah, he cares a lot. He just doesn't really know the best way to, like, be helpful. And, like, of course, her brother's annoying, you know. Yeah. And they're fighting over dinner. But I'm like, I like that aspect of it. Like, they're, you know, Joe's doing her best. She's doing her best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times shows make the parents out to be like these like people who don't pay attention and don't care. And I feel like this show, like the parents always cared. Like, they were involved, and like the dad, and which is true because a lot of dads, like, you might not know how to talk to like your 12-year-old daughter about things, right? Which I think makes sense. I mean, our dad certainly wasn't like. No. He cared, he showed up to our stuff, but he didn't know what some of it, you know, he had no clue. Like, he
didn't know how to do our hair.
He tried.
Like, you know, he tried.
You usually ended up doing mine.
Yeah, usually I was responsible for your hair at a certain age. But, you know, he put in effort. He tried. It just didn't always know how to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I like that the parents, like, clearly are involved and clearly care and, like, want to know what's going on in their kids' lives. But, yeah, I mean, I just think in terms of, like, nostalgia, like, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I was willing to rewatch that entire show when I heard the reboot was coming out, and I wasn't mad about it. Yeah, I think it still, like, holds up. There was, like, one line that, like, Gordo was reading through his parents' files of his patients because they're shrinks, and he said, if you think you don't like your body now, just wait. And I was like...
It's like...
Which is very true and sad, but also, like, it kind of threw me off guard a little bit.
I know.
So there was, like, a little thing like that, but for the most part, like, it wasn't super, like, problematic with, like, jokes and things. I felt like most of it...
Yeah, I didn't really notice anything that made me, like, roll my eyes and be like, ooh, that didn't age
because some of that 2000s humor is a little...
There was one pilot that I was like, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. I see why it got nominated for an award for like best written children's like episode. I mean and so probably a lot of it's nostalgia just because I love the show, but I thought it was really well done.
I did too.
Thought it was good.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay. My favorite character is Lizzie.
Absolutely.
She's very relatable. I like her and her animated character. I mean, it's Lizzie McGuire. It's Hilary Duff.
It's Hilary Duff.
It's Hilary Duff. We were also
We
just
love
obsessed
Hilary.
with Hilary Duff and her music, and
We sure were.
Cheap by the Dozen. Woo!
Let the rain come down. Yeah.
And wake my dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, we loved. It was the trifecta. The Lindsay Lohan, Hilary Duff, Amanda Bynes trifecta was everything.
Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity.
Come back.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
We have like two. We have the two connecting. We just need the last one to come back.
We do.
We've got Lohan and Duff.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So I think Lizzie's my favorite character.
I would definitely agree.
Lo-
It comes across as like very wholesome. I like that she has this spat with her friend Miranda, and then Gordo is like, "Hey, I also didn't get invited."
Yeah.
Like this one guy, and she kind of sees it from a different perspective, and it was like, "Oh, you're right. Like maybe I don't need to go to this pool party.
Yeah.
Maybe I can be happy with my friends and family.
Yeah.
And not my Nana's 80th birthday party."
Yeah. I mean, that was actually my favorite scene, her and Gordo, because I felt like she got to be like, oh, you're right. Like, see that it wasn't like all about her. And I think Gordo made some good points and put things into perspective.
Well, also because they're playing cards too, and I'm
right.
like, that's very relatable.
I know they were
for me as a
playing
child.
Spit.
They're playing Spit.
I think.
I think so.
Either that or they were playing
Speed Solitaire.
No, what's the one?
War. There's
War.
too.
War.
Yeah, maybe they're playing that.
But yeah, I just thought it was a good scene, and I also really liked their friendship and like relationship
too.
throughout the show. They just have good
very
chemistry.
wholesome.
Yeah,
Very wholesome.
Which I was looking forward to seeing them as adults interact
I know.
in the reboot. This line, I don't know. There was a line where Lizzie was talking about her grandma, and she's like, for all I know, my grandmother's like lying about her age, and she's really like 29. And then Miranda goes, and then we're missing the party for nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, I had the, she used to be our best friend until she bought a bra. And I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's fun. I liked that
But
one.
yeah, I'm a big fan.
Would watch? Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Considering I watched the episode 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I'd watch.
I would watch it as an adult. I almost did.
I did watch it as an adult.
I still watch the Lizzie McGuire movie all the time.
Absolutely.
I still listen to Hilary Duff's music.
Me too.
No shame.
Why not? All the time.
Ugh.
We're jamming.
Yeah.
We are jamming.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to
What do you want to pick next?
Sadder Times.
Okay.
I just want to get it done with, honestly.
Dog with a blog?
Dog with a blog.
Okay, let's go to it.
Dog with a blog.
All right, I'm here.
All right, this show came out in 2012, and it went for 3 seasons.
Shocking.
Had 69 episodes.
That sucks.
Yeah. So it had a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, which, So it was created by Michael B. Kaplan. So Kuma was the name of the mutt that originally portrayed Stan, the dog, but was replaced after 5 episodes due to a dispute with Kuma's owner. So they brought in a dog named Mick to fill in for the rest of the show, and they had artificially painted both the dogs with the same color scheme. Did you notice the dog looked weird?
I mean, there's a lot of things wrong
Okay,
with the dog.
but they painted the dogs.
Okay.
Which,
yeah.
A little weird.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Weird.
The show had very mixed reviews from critics. There was
Not
almost
surprised.
no background on this show, but I did find that Paul McGinnis, the puppeteer of the Muppets, is on Dog with a Blog as a puppeteer for Stan's legs in certain scenes.
Okay.
So they got the big guns.
Great.
In the pilot episode, Stan of the House aired October 12th, 2012, and had 4.5 million viewers. Now a summary. Who thought this show was a good idea? This dog is creepy, and they artificially painted him. Anyways, Stan is a talking dog who finds a new home after he's been kicked out of hundreds before. Unfortunately for Stan, he finds a new home with the most annoying kids and a father who seems to be a fake therapist and writing books to profit off of it. This show is horrifying.
I mean, it's literally and figuratively dog shit.
It's horrifying. It sucked.
Dog shit.
The writing was terrible.
So you have a dog that is CGI. They CGI the eyes and the mouth to be big-eyed and be able to vocalize. He also is looking up hot poodles in your area at a certain point, and I was like, we're really doing dog porn in this show.
Yeah, that was
a joke.
Weird.
I love that. I already knew I was not gonna like this show about 3 minutes into it. I was like,
I didn't finish it.
I mean, I
had like
finished
3 minutes left, and then I ended up
I was doing other things while I watched it.
I had 3 minutes left. I didn't finish it, and then I went back, and I was like, I should just watch just to see it. But
I accidentally clicked out of it, and then I was like, I gotta finish it. I have like 2 minutes left, so I went back and I like watched it, and then I was like, okay, we're done.
But did you think that girl, the main girl, looked like a mini Blair from Gilmore Girls? Blair, not Blair.
The girl named Avery,
the blonde, yeah,
the one who's like the Dakota Fanning's character from Uptown Girls, very uptight, like very yeah, kind of. I can kind of see
me her vibe.
Yeah, she's giving vibes of that.
Yeah, I just wrote, I don't care about the show. The dog talking is horrifying.
Oh, also,
yeah.
So there's a part where she fills a dog bowl with food. And then sprays bacon spray in it.
Yeah.
And she's just holding an empty bowl. Like, there's nothing in this bowl. She's just waving around. There's no weight to it. It's like when they drink coffee and there's nothing in the cup and they're just like, coffee. It's the same thing. I'm like, there's nothing in that bowl. Like, she's not even, like, the angle is not even attempting to pretend that there's something in that bowl. I thought it was interesting, though, that I think this was the first time that, like, step siblings were in a Disney Channel show.
Yeah, it was cool to see like a mixed blend, like a blended family.
Yeah,
family.
So but I was like, how funny we start the episode with a dumb blonde cheerleader.
Yeah,
how funny, how original.
Yeah,
I'm like, so original. And then I'm like, the mom's got the tied scarf and she's like uptight and like, you know, socialite type mom. I could never have a dog. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like. The CGI was bad. Yeah. I just didn't like any of
I didn't
episode.
care. And I didn't, to be honest, I didn't write down a favorite character line or scene.
I said Avery because I liked the Uptown Girl vibes that came from her. If I had to pick a character, I didn't pick a scene or a line. I said would watch no. I was like, it's not
I don't
worth
think
it.
even as a kid I would have, because it was just creepy.
I'm surprised it made 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Kids like animals, though.
I guess. So but I think as a kid I would have been like, fuck that. Fuck you, Stan.
It's just like, fuck you, Stan.
I hated it.
1 cream and 1 sugar.
1 finger up for you, Stan.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
No,
I was not a fan.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I don't think there's any redeeming qualities.
No, there was nothing really I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Now that that's out of the way, give us something better.
Give us something better? Okay.
That's not hard to do, because everything was better.
Let's go to The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is an American teen sitcom that aired from 2005 to 2008. It was created by Danny Callis and Jim Geoghegan, who Danny Callis had written previously for shows such as Taxi, Who's the Boss, and Smart Guy. So he had done a bunch of shows previously, like reputable shows. Jim Geoghegan, I didn't say anything about him, so I don't know what he's up to. But the show stars twins Dylan and Cole Sprouse as twins growing up in a fictional hotel set in Boston, loosely based on the Hilton, London Tipton, basically being similar to Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny is that Paris named one of her children, or named one of her children London.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious. It is the 3rd series of the Disney Channel live-action shows or actually just all Disney shows to have more than 65 episodes. Because oftentimes, once they hit 65, that's all they produce.
Right.
Which, for Lizzie McGuire, that was the amount they had was 65.
Yeah.
The only other shows that had previously done that were That's So Raven and Kim Possible, a favorite of ours as well. It was filmed before a live studio audience. And it also led to a sequel spinoff called The Sweet Life on Deck that aired from 2008 to 2011 that was essentially a school ship on a cruise ship that Mr. Mosby also somehow... I didn't really get the premise of that show. And we didn't watch a lot of it.
They made like a cruise line through the hotel, and he basically was like the cruise director, and the mom sang on it, and...
I don't think the mom was in the show.
Oh, maybe not.
I thought she was. I thought that just the kids went.
I don't remember.
I could be wrong though. But anyway, because I know like Ashley Tisdale wasn't on it.
Yeah.
A lot of the cast weren't on it.
It was
anymore.
mostly just the 2 leads, the two boys.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mosby.
So it also had a television film on the Disney Channel that aired in 2011 called The Sweet Life Movie that aired after the end of Sweet Life on Deck, which I also have never seen, so I don't know what the premise of that one is.
I saw it.
It was nominated for 3 Emmys and Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, of course. It had 3 seasons, plus during the 3 seasons, there was a crossover special called That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana that aired on July 28th, 2006. That was a crossover between That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Hannah Montana. 2006 was one of Disney's top rated. In 2006 it was one of Disney's top rated programs. I was like, I don't know what that means, but I just read it wrong. It also had 3 video games produced about it, multiple online flash games, which we played the hotel one where you try to like collect goods in the hotel and avoid Mr. Mosby.
Yeah.
It had books, clothing, and toys. Okay, so now on to the pilot, because this is another surprise, another one where the pilot is not the first episode aired.
Which I found out after.
Yeah, so Hannah originally watched the first episode and not the pilot, and then she did watch the pilot after the fact.
Yeah.
So the pilot of this show is called Grounded on the 23rd Floor. It premiered April 8th, 2005. The first episode aired was called Hotel Hangout, which was on March 18th, so about a month before the actual episode aired. So I don't have any like pilot number information. There was, and this is very specific. I don't know if this is true, but there's a rumor that there was a first original pilot that never aired that was apparently horrible, and there are no clips that exist from it. This is based on a post from the user RedLamp94 on a BuzzFeed article from 2021 that was about the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody pilot, but actually was not the pilot. This person watched Hotel Hangout as the pilot, and they were like, I don't know if this is a great pilot. And then this was one of the comments on there that was like, actually, this wasn't the pilot. The pilot was this one, but also there might be another one. So there might have been a first pilot, an unaired first pilot. Unclear.
Interesting.
The pilot itself, that episode, the Ground of the 23rd Floor, has a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb. And the pilot is, quote, not a real pilot, but originally the first episode shot and mirrors pilot style. The episode has had multiple alternate cuts and versions aired, depending on whether it was live on TV, a rerun, or on Disney+. So that leads people to, like, confidently believe that this is, like, the intended pilot based on those things.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have.
Okay.
I'll go to my summary. In a swanky hotel in Boston, 2 little shits will make it their mission to terrorize Mr. Mosby, the hotel manager. They also happen to rack up a sizable room service bill to the dismay of their single mom who works 2 jobs, loves her kids, and never stops, and in turn, try to scheme their way to pay back what they owe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we watched this show quite a bit.
A lot. We watched a lot of Sweet Life of Zack.
I'll never forget Don't Mess With Me or The Tree of Liberty. It's like a funny show. Like the humor for the most part still held up.
For the most part, it held up.
There were a couple things I laughed at. There were a few like weird things where I was like,
there were a few weird like little kid misogynistic takes that I'm like, these are small kids imitating other people. Yeah. And, like, I don't love some of this like misogyny going on here, but you know, it's of the time.
But yeah, I think the show does a lot of physical comedy, which I think works out pretty well.
Yeah.
And I will
say a lot of the early Disney Channel shows like heavily physical comedy for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think I think the cast is pretty good. Like there's a lot of people in this who have gone on to do other things. And
absolutely.
I think the mom's really funny. I always really liked her character.
I really like the mom.
And you know, I just think it's like a good balanced cast of people. And I don't know, I like that it's like a play on like an actual thing in real life, like Paris Hilton and like London's supposed to be this really like rich, like ditzy kind of girl, and I don't know. But it's like nice because it's like she's stereotypical, but also like they do it in a way that doesn't feel like offensive.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, I don't know. I still thought, like, as a adult watching this, there were still moments that, like, made me laugh. And
yeah,
I could remember, like, why I liked to watch this show, so.
And I kind of remembered this pilot episode, too. Like, I remember it's a little me back then.
Yeah.
I remember, like, that line. I thought it was funny that there was a J-Lo reference that's still relevant because she's relevant right now.
She's still relevant.
You know, me probably gonna be divorced soon.
Ooh, Ben Affleck.
Oops. Yikes.
Little Benny.
Unconfirmed, but you know. It's a rumor. Tabloids.
Heard it here first.
Heard it through the grapevine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought a lot of the stuff was pretty solid. I liked the Mrs. Doubtfire style, like, oh, let me grab Cody, he's in the bath.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me grab Zach, like, in changing outfits, kind of like when she's at the dinner and she's going back and, or Robin Williams is going back and forth between Mrs. Doubtfire and his real character, his real self. There was a surprising, so many times Mrs. Doubtfire was relevant to these pilots.
Yeah.
And it, like, where I'm like, this is a scene from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Like Raven, that's a Raven, like.
And Hannah Montana had a thing that was also, like, so it was interesting to me that I'm like, they must have really loved Robin Williams. Which, I mean, he played the genie and brought him in a lot of money.
I also loved Robin Williams, so.
Me too, yeah. So, I get it. But I was like, I see the influence. I see it.
Yeah,
the slapstick stuff worked.
Yeah. And I think, like, there's
I also love that I also love that they said they were going to buy the hotel with 20
Oh, I know. That's like,
the kids,
it's such a kid mindset.
It's a lot of money.
Like, when you used to get, like, $20 and you're like, I can do so much, and now I get $20, and I'm like, well, this is going to be gone by today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that some of these pilots, it's like they're trying too hard with the humor. Right. And I think this one, and it's interesting that you said the guy who wrote for, like, Taxi and a bunch of those shows, because it feels a little bit more like, it doesn't feel like necessarily like kid humor all the way.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's, like, dumbed down for kids.
Like, as an adult, I still respect, I could, like, appreciate some of the humor they did.
Right.
But yeah, I'm a fan.
I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pretty solid pilot.
Same too.
My favorite character is Carrie Martin.
Oh, I love Carrie Martin.
Carrie Martin is, like, one of the best parents of just television.
She might be one of my favorite, like, there. Disney parents for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when we did our Disney parent ranking, I think I put her second or first. Mm-hmm. She was definitely up there. Yeah. For sure.
Because she definitely cares about her kids, but she also doesn't buy into their bullshit.
Yeah. And like, she's just trying to make a living, you know? She's
like, can we not fuck this up again?
Do you really want to mess this up? Like, this is a good thing we've got.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, she's just doing her best. But she can admit her mistakes. Yeah. She's like, you know.
She's an MVP for sure.
Yeah. She's doing her best.
Favorite line. For some reason I remember this line so vividly, and they're talking to Mr. Mosby and he just goes, or prison.
Or prison, yeah.
Something about how, like, they might end up in, like, whatever. Or prison. And I was like,
or prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, like, when I heard the line, it, like, when London comes back and she said, it's little me back from Perry, I was like, I, like, have such a vivid memory of that line. Right. And the, like, you dry cleaned your underwear.
Yeah.
And I remember that, too. Like, it was very specifically. I don't know why those stuck out to me, but.
I liked the scene you mentioned in the bathroom. I also liked the scene that, like, kind of paralleled the different groups in the vents.
I liked the vents, too,
I liked how they, like, repeated the same thing, but in a different way. And then, like, Mr. Mosby just showing up in the vents. I thought it was, like, a cool way to do a scene.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. That was just, like, everyone's in the vents, pretty much. I think I definitely, I mean, we watched the show when we were kids.
And I like, still found it entertaining as an adult, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say so.
All right,
what do you want next?
Well, good news is, like...
the last two you got left are good.
I don't have, like, a bad choice. Let's do... I want to end on a certain one. Well, I want to end mine on a certain one, so let's go to Hannah Montana.
All right.
Hannah Montana. Ran from 2006 to 2011. It ran for 4 seasons and had 98 episodes. Wow. Almost got that 100. Mm-hmm. Had a 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb. So this was created by Michael Poyers, Rich Carell, and Barry O'Brien. I wrote all those names horribly.
That's fine.
So this show was sort of commissioned after some of the success of more of the music-based franchises.
Like probably like Cheetah Girls.
Yeah, they talked about like Raven. They also talked about like High School Musical was kind of being created around the same time. It came out in 2006.
I was going to say High School Musical came out in 2006.
And Disney was kind of trying to gear towards more like the musical aspect and getting musical talents on their shows.
Right.
So this is considered one of Disney's most commercially successful franchises. It had consistently high viewership. It led to a lot of sales in merch, soundtrack albums, which we had.
Concerts.
Tours. Yeah. And this show helped launch Miley Cyrus's music career and launched her as a teen pop idol at the time.
Absolutely.
So it was nominated for 4 Primetime Emmys, and Miley Cyrus also won a Young Artist Award. Miley Cyrus was initially rejected for this role. They thought she looked too young and that she was too young to play the part. And they also cited her having a lack of experience. And after 6 months, they were still searching for a lead. Miley had been sending them new audition tapes throughout that period, and they decided to bring her back in and have her audition again, and decided that, like, they liked her as the role. They said that because she was a little bit older, but also, like, they just couldn't find the perfect person.
Yeah.
So, after she was cast, her father in real life, Billy Ray Cyrus, aka Achy Breaky Heart, was asked to audition and play the role of her father. He initially turned it down, one, because he wasn't an actor, and he thought they should hire an actual actor to play the role, and 2, he didn't want to, like, steal his daughter's thunder or, like, take over what was supposed to be her show.
Right.
So he ended up joining the series after a little bit of time, and the show cited their actual relationship as, like, portraying on the screen. Like, it felt very authentic because they actually were father and daughter. So towards the end of this show, Miley Cyrus expressed a desire to leave, basically saying that she had grown a lot in the time period, and there was starting to become some, I don't know what the word is, but, like, her public image was starting to become a bit more, like, adult, basically.
Yeah.
Like, she was doing things that, like, Disney wasn't, like, thrilled with for, like, a kid image. And she also just said, like, I started the show as, like, a 12-year-old, but now I'm still supposed to be, like, I'm still supposed to be, like gearing towards a 12-year-old audience, but I'm, like, becoming more of a teenager now, and it's just not what I want to do anymore. So that's kind of why the show ended the season it did. During that time period, they released a movie. It came out in 2009, called The Hannah Montana Movie. Taylor Swift
Banks.
makes an appearance. She sings in a barn scene. Yeah,
and throwdown.
What's her name? Jan Livingston Gould. No Gould. She plays the girlfriend for Billy Ray Cyrus.
No Gould.
Season 1, Episode 1 is called Lily, Do You Want to Know a Secret? It came out March 24th, 2006, and had 5.4 million viewers. I forgot to mention the movie grossed $169 million, which is a lot. Yeah. It was huge. I remember airing on Disney Channel, and people, like, lost it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of the background, too, kind of went to go forward about, like, Miley Cyrus's image and how, like, people expected. She had this, as a lot of teen stars, young stars do, like, you're expected to be a certain way. Like, I've heard the Jonas Brothers talk about it.
I mean, Disney had a very, like, they had, like, you were crafted to have a certain image, and when you didn't fit that, like, remember when, like, Vanessa Hudgens had to apologize for people leaking her nudes that she didn't put out, and, like, she had to make an apology?
Yeah.
And I'm like...
And, like, the Jonas Brothers have talked about, like, how you're expected to be a certain way. And so, and Miley Cyrus has kind of talked about...
Well, Hilary Duff had talked about
it's
that,
kind
too.
of,
like,
it happens with a lot of, like, these younger stars, especially, like, people who are geared towards, like, an audience like that.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't have control over their own image and the way that they're able to act and, like, live their life, under, like, a scrutiny.
Yeah. Of, like, but they also mentioned that there were numerous guest stars who made appearances. Jesse McCartney, Jonas Brothers, Dolly Parton, who is actually Miley Cyrus's grandmother, godmother, played her godmother on the show.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was Reba ever on the show?
Yeah.
I thought Reba
Perhaps,
was on it,
I wouldn't be
I
surprised.
could have been wrong, yeah.
Billy Cyrus has that country music poll, you know. But yeah, so that is my background. So let me pull up my summary, which I wrote on my phone at like 1 a.m. because I thought of it.
Okay. That's fair.
Miley Stewart, a.k.a. Miley Cyrus, a.k.a. Hannah Montana, is living the best of both worlds. Her dead mom is Brooke Shields, which you don't actually find out in the pilot, but
Really?
yes.
I don't remember her being Brooke Shields.
Her dad has an achy, breaky
Okay.
heart. Her brother is a 35-year-old man. With the help of them all, she must find a way to live a double life. Will she be able to, or will she find that you can always find a way back home? Her brother is literally like, I don't remember how old he was when the pilot aired, but he's like in his late 20s.
He was like in his almost 30 years old.
Which is
he's
wild.
playing, like, a
So Brooke
16-year-old
Shields
or
in
something.
later episodes plays her mom as like
Okay.
flashback scenes.
I don't remember that in the slightest, but that, okay. Also, can we talk about Corbin Bleu?
Oh, I
was
know.
In this episode, and I was like, "What is?"
I feel
Corbin
like
Bleu doing
Disney
here?
like to like cross promote people.
Well, because one of like the mean girls was one of the girls from Camp
Right.
Rock. One of the singers. I don't remember her name. Hasta la vista.
And
That song.
High School Musical came out the same year, so it's possible that they were. I don't know which one came out first, but
I think they just like overlapped.
right. I think they like to just have like Miley Cyrus is in.
She's in Camp Rock too.
She's in High School Musical too. At the end,
in the
just singing
beach scene.
Yeah, so I think they just they had talent, and I think they just like to throw them in wherever they could.
I think so.
Because they brought the Jonas Brothers on and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I like we said, I watched the show quite a bit. I never finished it.
I didn't either.
I have seen the movie too.
I've seen the movie like maybe once.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
But yeah, I watched it quite a bit, at least the earlier seasons.
I remember this episode pretty well.
Yeah.
I definitely have seen the pilot
Right.
for sure. And I feel like, we watched a lot of these episodes.
Yeah.
I think at the time.
The one thing I will say about the show is I do think it does feel very genuine. Because you have an actual father and daughter, like who are playing a father and daughter.
Right.
I think it comes through.
I think the chemistry of the collective family comes through in like the pilot at least.
Right, and I
get
think
the vibe of who they were.
Jackson, like he's meant to be this older annoying brother, but I feel like he plays well off the other two.
Yeah. Right.
And I think like her and Lily's relationship is cool. Like it feels like that's something that how it would happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You get mad at a friend for like a day and then you like apologize.
And then you get over it, yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think there's certainly certain parts of it that felt like very like cheesy and like a little over the top, but that's kind of what Disney does.
Yeah.
In periods. But I think for the most part, like obviously Miley Cyrus is very talented.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like a surprise. Right.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do as much acting as she did,
Right.
but I do think like obviously she's talented. I think a lot of this cast is pretty talented. I mean,
Yeah.
even like
Emily
Billy Ray
Osment's done a
Cyrus.
lot,
Yeah, Emily
yeah.
Osment's done a lot. Even like Billy Ray Cyrus. Like I know he's not an actor, but I think because it probably helps because he's with like his actual daughter, but he feels like the dad character who's like he's a single dad.
And, works 2 jobs.
Single dad working 2 jobs.
I loved his security outfit with the huge like mustache beard combo. I thought that was funny.
But yeah, I think
can we talk
it was
about
pretty good.
The outfits?
Oh yeah.
Are so like that time period.
Yeah.
It's such a specific look and I'm like, I dressed like that. I remember it. I hope
and
we
like,
never go back to it. But
people like dressed how Hannah Montana dressed.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
people were obsessed with the look and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the feathered like wig. I felt like with like the feathered wig without the bangs. I was like, I don't feel like that stuck around for very long.
Yeah.
And she did the Mrs. Doubtfire pie thing.
Yes.
Which I was like, there's another Mrs. Doubtfire reference.
Yeah.
The one thing I think is really interesting, especially with this episode, is at this time, paparazzi and like privacy of people who are celebrities is so different now than it used to be. And the fact that like trespassing to get into someone's dressing room, like of course it's her friend, so it ends up being okay, but I'm like, that's such an invasion of privacy to like be breaking into someone's dressing room, to be like, trying to get into like their, like I feel like it's a bit different back then, like the amount of harassment that people got, like pop stars and singers and things, comparatively to like now. I feel like it's at least a little bit better than like it used to be. But I was like, I forgot it was like that was just common, where it's like that's not a problem that they broke into her dressing room, it's her friend. So I thought that was an interesting like capsule look, of a different
I
time.
agree.
Yeah
And there is this like this show's interesting because there are some like real stakes to it, because it's like, yeah, if her identity gets revealed, people are probably going to treat her differently.
Yeah.
And I get her being so concerned about people finding out, because it is like she wants to have this normal life. And so yeah, like you hear about, like, I remember like certain people, like when they got launched really quickly into stardom, they talk about like how you can't even like go anywhere without people noticing you and stuff like that. And so yeah, I think
privacy,
right, there's not really privacy. So I think it is like interesting the way they do it. I don't know, sometimes kids shows or shows meant for kids don't feel like they have a lot of high stakes.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one, there's actually like, oh yeah, you're right, like that would be an issue.
Yeah.
So I like that. But yeah, I think overall it's like a pretty solid pilot.
Yeah. I thought it was solid. And
you know,
then it
I
like
enjoyed
set up the characters in a way that made sense, and like the storyline of like what we're working with. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like good conflict and stuff like that. So
some good comedy. So
yeah,
family. We're a
family. I picked favorite character. I went with Miley.
I did too.
I just think like in this, at least in this episode, she's the one who kind of has like this arc of like, she's living this double life and she's trying to keep it a secret, but she wants to be able to like be honest with her friend and like, and stuff like that. And so I feel like she kind of goes through these different emotions and things that were nice to see. So yeah, I picked her.
Yeah. I think it almost kind of works that she feels a little like she's not that experienced, but also she's supposed to be like a middle schooler. Like she's supposed to be like, you know, figuring things out. So I think that kind of works for that character.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? So I kind of like that aspect of her character. Yeah. And then she's also a pop star, you know, singing This Is the Life.
This is the life.
I'd forgotten that they had like a song every episode that was like the concert. You just got one song only per episode. Because they played it twice, the same song twice at different times. I liked her as the character,
Yeah, I didn't write down a favorite line, actually. I don't know if you had one.
Okay. I didn't have a favorite line. I did like her fashion stylist was like, "Giddy up, I'm a cowboy." Like, I was like, that was kind of funny. I thought like the makeup scene between her and Lily was pretty well done. Yeah, I picked that as my favorite scene.
I like that. I also liked the dressing room scene just for like the pie moment.
Yeah,
because
the pie moment was good. Yeah,
I love that little nod to Mrs. Doubtfire.
I know.
In terms of like what I watched, like as a kid,
Oh yeah, I mean it did.
I think like me now, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think as an adult I don't think I would be necessarily interested in just in the type of show in general.
Right.
Just like the shows that I'm drawn to as an adult, I don't think I would, but as a kid, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right.
Let's go to the last show that I have, the newest show I have, called Just Roll With It. So, this is an American comedy series created by Adam Small and Trevor Moore. Based in Akron, Ohio, is where the family is supposed to be set, but it is a family of actors who break into character in front of a live studio audience. So it's a multicam show that is a mix of script and improv. So they have a set script, but then have to improv when certain things happen. There'll be an air horn, and then the audience has voted on something to occur, and then they have to like work that into the scene. The show premiered on June 9th, 2019. A sneak peek pilot of the pilot premiered on June 14th, so about 5 days before it premiered. The pilot is called Career Day Catastrophe. It premiered to 0.65 million viewers. It is the highest viewed episode of the entire show. The show went for 2 seasons. Season 1 averaged 0.44 million viewers an episode. It has a 7.10 out of IMDb, the pilot does. And pretty much that is about all I could find about this show. There was not a lot to work with. The pilot itself is 32 minutes long. Career Day Catastrophe. And I have my summary. When all that meets Whose Line Is It Anyway, you sometimes just have to roll with it. In front of a live studio audience that votes your fate, the Bennett Blatt family tries to adjust to a life in Ohio. Things don't go as planned, as those little assholes in the audience rain bird shit from above onto a small child and make him eat it. Hilarious.
I will say,
why are we sliming everyone? Why is
Yeah.
this whole show just the things that are improv are just getting slimed, like Nickelodeon slime?
I think I'll say one thing. I think it's an interesting concept.
I think it's unique.
You were frozen,
Yeah.
and I don't know if
Oh,
you can
okay.
hear me. Okay,
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
okay. Oh, there you go. I think it's an interesting concept, like to mix this scripted with improv.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of thing. And I think, like, I applaud them for trying something different. Having said that, though, I do find that, like, the improv really, like, messes with the flow of the show. Like,
I
it's
100% agree.
right. Like, it's different, like, when it's, like, Saturday Night Live and it's, like, all improv. And, like, all, like, that kind
Right.
of, like, sketch comedy. Not, like, all improv, but, like, it's all, like, that sketch comedy thing. I just think going back and forth between... It feels a little like it's two different shows because you have these scripted scenes and then you have this, like, improv stuff, and it just... It made it hard to actually,
It
like...
doesn't mesh.
focus on the
Yeah.
episode. Yeah. So I think that's my biggest issue. I do think, like... I thought the kids did a good job.
Yeah, that was
Sort
well
of.
acted.
Yeah, like I thought the cast was pretty good. I just think there was some issues with like the flow of it for sure.
Yeah, I think my problem with it, because I like improv. Like, we watch so much Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
And, like, when we were kids, we watched, like, Amanda Show and all that were, like, kind of kid comedy type shows. But I think it's a little weird when it's, like, you have just a normal scripted, like, multicam live studio audience sitcom, and then it's like, oh, also, now you got to do improv over this ridiculous thing. And, like, it's all, like, absurd things. Like, it's not, like, normal stuff. I'm like, I think maybe if it was more normal improv, it maybe would feel better to do. But it's like, oh no, a yogurt machine exploded. You've been covered in yogurt. Or a man falls through the roof. Oh, you got some birds up there. Let's shit on this small child. And then he's like, it doesn't taste like poop. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what is this? What is this?
I feel like sometimes the comedy was like trying too hard.
Like, I appreciate we get a blended family.
Yeah.
You know, we get a, like,
Also,
yeah.
the mom's definitely not straight.
Oh.
Did you see her outfit at the beginning with her flannel?
I didn't, but I wear flannel.
You have something you want to tell us?
People
No, I'm
who are
kidding.
straight can wear flannel.
No, but she just gave
It's not
off the vibe she
gave-
wasn't straight, but
maybe
she could be
she
bi,
could be bi.
or she could be anything.
Yeah. She could be pan. You never know. There's
Yeah.
options here.
But yeah, I liked having the blended family, and like it was a unique concept, which I appreciate. You get sick of watching the same shows over and over again, but I just think there were certain. I like the concept. I just don't know that
I don't think it executed well.
translates well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's an interesting idea, but
Yeah.
I wasn't super into it.
It's hard to
Yeah.
mix those two together and like do it seamlessly because it's
Right.
like there's gonna be some like distraction from the main plot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think overall like it was intriguing for me to watch.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not the best thing.
Not the best, yeah.
No. I actually liked the I don't know what his name is, but the son, the boy who got
it's like-
shit on.
Byron or
Yeah.
something like that.
Anyways, I just thought like, or what was his name? Lil Wawa, his nickname.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. I just thought he did a good job, and I think like, I thought all the cast was like pretty. They seemed like they meshed pretty well together, but I just thought he did a good job, especially like as a kid actor. Like I didn't find him that annoying, which is really a positive.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think probably of the characters, I picked the mom. I think her name's Rachel.
Yeah,
That's what I've written down. But I liked that she kind of like is trying to adjust to like, you know, a blended family, like a stepchild. She has like was in a military career prior to her current like job as a radio producer. I think is the impression that I got.
Yeah.
But I liked her character like as a parent, so I thought it was interesting. To me.
Yeah.
I didn't have a favorite line.
The only line that made me laugh, and I don't know what this says about me, is, "They're not people, Mom, they're clowns." And I was like, that's harsh, but kind of
true.
funny.
Harsh.
Funny.
Speaks harshly, but truly.
Yeah. I didn't really have a favorite scene because everything just got really disjointed for me.
Yeah. I thought the initial man falling through the ceiling was kind of funny because the actors themselves were laughing, and I thought that was kind of fun. But then when the bird shit came down, then I was like,
too much.
I was like, you ruined it. You ruined it. Can't do it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's too much like gross humor. Which
it's
appeals
like what
to
they
children.
think.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm like, Nickelodeon slime was a huge thing.
Yeah, they loved just remember Katy Perry got like, knocked out by slime.
Yeah, they love to slime all celebrities and adults and kids. And so I'm like, I get it. But it's like, that was in the early 2000s. This is 2019. We're past that point. We don't need people to get sprayed with yogurt and fake marshmallow stuff. You know, I'm just not for me. I'm not gonna watch that.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch it. Maybe as a kid, I don't know.
Maybe, I mean, we liked that type of show, but I don't know if we would have found that funny. You know? Like,
we were watching like Whose Line Is It Anyways? Yeah. It's like children.
I was like, we were watching Whose Line Is It Anyways? Like 8
and SNL,
and,
so like
and MXC,
right?
Which was like,
so maybe we wouldn't have thought it was funny because we would have known better comedy.
We had better comedy, idols at the time.
But yeah, I do think it's an interesting concept. I'll give them props for that.
I think of the shows that are on this list, it's probably the most unique in like type of show. Yeah, so give it props for that.
All right, let's move on.
Snaps.
See if we can gaze into our future. That's So Raven. It ran from 2003 to 2007. It was 4 seasons and 100 episodes.
Yeah, they love That's So Raven.
6.7.
Great show.
Yeah, a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. And it was created by Michael Porras, who did Hannah Montana, and Susan Sherman. It was Disney's first multi-camera sitcom. After the success of earlier single-camera comedies such as Even Stevens and Lizzie McGuire, they moved to multi-camera sitcoms, and That's So Raven was the first one they did. It also became the first program on the network to reach 100 episodes. And most of the reason it ended was because the actors were aging beyond the show's teen target demographic. Yeah. So it had very high viewership, and that led to a lot of merchandise, soundtrack albums, and video game adaptations. They had a lot of critical praise for Raven-Symoné, and specifically for her physical comedy that she does throughout the show.
So funny.
Yeah.
She's like such a good comedic timing for like a teenager. And I remember that being like a huge thing like when we were kids. She was so funny.
Yeah. So the series received 2 Primetime Emmy Award nominations for Outstanding Children's Programs in 2005 and 2007. It led to spin-offs Cory in the House, which ran from 2007 to 2008, and Raven's Home, which aired in 2017. So the original show was supposed to be called Absolutely Psychic. So in this pilot, Raven actually was starring as the best friend.
I've heard about this before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so test audiences reacted really well to her, and she also impressed producers. So they actually rewrote it and gave her the main role because they liked her so much. Choice, yeah, and the audiences really were drawn to her. Yeah. It was reported to be the highest rated original program in Disney Channel history, and it broke Lizzie McGuire held that previous title. By 2006, merchandise based off the series had grossed over $400 million. Yeah. Which is insane.
A lot. A lot of money.
And even though Raven had been in previous things, this was kind of seen as the launch of her career. Kind of like more of a breakout role, and would lead to further down the line, she would appear in more Disney Cheetah Sisters. Yeah. This is a little bit confusing. We talked about pilot episodes. Yeah. So me and Alyssa both did some research. Alyssa had watched Mother Dearest, which is season 1, episode 1 on Disney+. The first show that aired on January 17th, 2003. But then there's also places that list Party Animal, which is technically the second episode, as the pilot. And I also found somewhere that listed season 1, episode 6 as the pilot. Yeah. And there's no conclusive...
It's inconclusive.
Yeah. You can't actually find which one is actually the pilot. We decided because Alyssa had already watched the episode, and because it was the first episode, and we didn't have an answer, we would just do Mother Dearest as the first episode. Yeah. This does mean, though, that Chelsea
It's not in the episode.
is not in the
I
episode.
was so upset.
So that's like kind of one of the drawbacks.
I know.
Anyways, so we watched Mother Dearest, which I said aired January 17th, 2003, had 3.6 million viewers. Okay, so a little summary. If you can gaze into the future, you might think life would be a breeze. Raven Baxter is your average teen with psychic powers. She can see into the future. Good thing the show didn't air in 2020, because one look into that future and it would have ended. She has her brother Corey, who is not yet in the house, her father who owns the Chill Grill, and her mother who disappears in the last season. Also her friends Eddie and Chelsea, who is invisible this episode. With the help of them, she will discover how mysterious the future is to her. Yep, that's me.
Oh my god. I love that theme song. Is so good.
Yeah. Did you like my line about 2020?
I did. I did like that line.
One look into that future and she's out of there.
You're like, oh god.
No, I don't want to. Yeah, that's the theme song is so... It's cool because the theme song has
so
Raven and Eddie,
Yeah,
Orlando...
Orlando Brown?
Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
Both in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this show was very, very, like...
Oh.
Everyone knew this
great.
show.
Yeah. I think
It
it's
was-
just like, I think it's one, you have a non-white main family.
Yeah.
Which, like, let's be honest, was not always super common at the time, of course,
Yeah.
which is upsetting, but you know. And I think it's interesting that Raven had come previously from The Cosby Show, which is probably one of the most, like, at the time when it came out, like, one of the most important family comedies that was, again,
Right.
a non-like white family.
Right.
You know, we can ignore the other things about people in that show, specifically one person. We're gonna ignore that, but you know, that was like where she got her start, was on that show. And I feel like the show is just funny in general. Like, you know, I remember really liking it, and I know this isn't like technically the official pilot, and that's why I looked, because I was like, Chelsea wasn't even in this episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that right? And then that's when I was like, oh, probably this isn't actually the pilot.
Right.
Cultural references. We got a LeBron reference.
LeBron James.
Which, again, still relevant. He's still playing.
He's still playing.
We got, like, the, like, giant, huge Mac desktop computers.
Yeah.
Like, the see-through. She got her own phone. Like, a landline phone. Which I'm like, that's very, you know, of the time frame.
Yeah.
She made a reference to Bootylicious, like, Destiny's Child. I thought Eddie, it was so clear that he is not an actor yet. He's like, say, brother, that's my locker. Like, he's overacting a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, he's not there yet. You know, he'll get there, but he's not there yet. You can definitely tell he's wildly overacting. I liked the other thing I noticed is, instead of saying, like, I got, which I know happened at the time, instead of saying, like, I've gotten an email, which is what you would say now, it was like, I got mail, right?
Yeah.
You say, I got mail. You know,
Because you've got mail.
You got mail. So I thought that was interesting. The fashion, iconic as always. I loved the fashion of the show.
Yeah.
I could never pull off any of those looks, but I wanted to wear those looks.
Yeah.
And I think the real highlight is the Mrs. Doubtfire physical comedy of Raven pretending to be her mom. I thought it works well. I think it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, Raven, like, clearly is very talented.
Yeah.
And
comedic timing. Like,
she had really good
comedic
comedic timing.
timing.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I always liked about the show is, like, the relationship between Eddie, Chelsea, and Raven. Like, I thought them as a friend group, like, they had really good comedic, like, interactions, and just, like, good interactions in general. But I also really liked the interactions with her family.
Yeah.
Like, her and Corey have this, like, really interesting
do.
sibling dynamic that's, like, he's the younger, like, brother, but she's also, like, she's like, I'm willing to learn from him, but then when she sees it doesn't work, she just immediately rips
like,
the page up, and she's like, no. And I think her and her parents, like, I really like her dad. I think he's one of the better Disney parents, too.
I agree. Yeah.
Victor.
Victor at the Chill Grill.
Yeah, and I just think, like, again, like, parents who, like, care, but sometimes, like, maybe don't know what's going on in their kids' lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, to me, this show, like, it works so well because of Raven, and I see why they rewrote the show to have her be the lead. Because I think if she would have been the friend, she would have just kind of stolen the show anyways. So it's clear to me why Tess audiences kind of gravitated towards her. I just think she's very talented in general. Yeah. And I really like the show.
I like the show as well. I mean, we watched a lot of That's So Raven.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of specific episodes of the show.
Yeah.
We loved, like, Raven was a big deal.
And we watched Cheetah Girls.
Watched the Cheetah Girls, and she was in Xenon. She was, I think, in some of the Xenon movies. Yeah, I think it holds up pretty well.
No, it does, definitely. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think favorite character, like, it's gotta be Raven.
Raven is,
She's just too good.
She's too good.
The scene, I mean, I really liked the scene where she was pretending to be the mom and kind of doing the thing again of Mrs. Doubtfire of, like, going and changing, like, running back and forth. And even when, like, the parents came in and she was, like, still pretending to not be who she was.
Just, like, the chalk, like.
Yeah. I just think, obviously, like, it's what she excels at, doing that sort of physical comedy, and it really showed in that scene. So it's cool to see. Yeah.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also picked the physical comedy of, like, her in, like, the versus the teacher, like, her teacher she talks back to, and then, like, is in the door, out of the door, like, running back and forth, talking to Eddie's bully, you know.
Yeah.
I liked that a lot. I thought it was fun.
Yeah. I had 2 lines. No, I think my favorite line is when she said, "Oh, is it LeBron? Because I like them tall."
Yeah.
Like, I just thought I thought the reference was really funny because LeBron James is still relevant.
And the delivery was funny, too.
And the way she said it was really funny, so.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, I 100% would watch it.
I agree. Okay, so our last pilot we had is from the show Good Luck Charlie. So, Good Luck Charlie was a show that premiered in 2010, ran from 4 seasons from 2010 to 2014. It's an American sitcom that's created by Phil Baker and Drew Valpin, who are a writing producing team who also worked on other Disney Channel shows as well. They wanted to create a show that appealed to the whole family, like, and not just children. And so, due to that, they also tried to include adult-centric scenes as well, like focused on the parents and, like, and adult issues that are not necessarily, like, teens and, you know, kids and stuff. Mm-hmm. The show focuses on the Duncan family navigating the birth of their 4th and eventually later 5th children, Charlie being the title character, and then they apparently have another child named Toby at a later point in time. They're from Denver. Based in Denver. So the showrunners drew a lot of inspiration from Full House and the George Lopez show, where, like, their 2 main inspirations of, like, that style of, like, family comedy that's focused on, like, the whole family, not necessarily just the children. The concept is that the middle child sister, Teddy, is that what her name is?
Teddy, yes.
Teddy. So she's creating a video diary series for Charlie when she gets older that she can reference about, like, when essentially, like, her older siblings won't be around when she, like, reaches the age that she's at, so, or, like, you know, in the house with them. So she's trying to do that to help her out. The show originally had the titles Oops and Love Teddy, were apparently alternate series titles. I think I might have missed a word. I just wrote Oops.
Oops.
And then Love Teddy. So I think maybe it's Oops Charlie is maybe what it was, or something. I don't know. I feel like I missed a word there.
Oops.
Because I'm like, Oops is a bit weird to make a title, but whatever. So there also is a feature-length Christmas film that premiered on Disney Channel in 2011 called Good Luck Charlie, It's Christmas. So that's the name of the Christmas movie. It's pretty generic.
It's creative.
There was also a 1-hour series finale that aired when the show ended. It was generally a 30-minute comedy sitcom. Because this show was premiering in 2010, which it was created earlier than that, the showrunners did not want to have a show about the rich and famous during an economy collapse, so they made them middle class. And I say middle class in quotes because we can get into that when we talk about the pilot. I have some thoughts about Disney Channel's definition of middle class versus my definition of middle class, but
yes,
I think the problem is middle class is such a broad category that it can mean...
Well, and also middle class in different states is also a broad category.
It can mean a lot of different things, you know? Yeah. I thought that was interesting. There was like, oh yeah, the show definitely was being produced right after the Great Recession was happening and people were struggling, so makes sense. And so they also tried to hire baby twins to play the character Charlie, but were unsuccessful because it makes them easier to film, like schedule film, you know. So they ended up with one baby actress who was 10 months old at the time. They also decided on the name Charlie for the baby sister because they thought it would, quote, attract more boys. The title character's name is Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was just an interesting quote that I pulled from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
On June 20th, 2013, an episode of season 4 featured a married lesbian couple, which was the first Disney Channel series to do so at the time. 1 Million Moms, a company we've talked about
Back
previously.
from the Fosters.
Back from the Fosters. Protested. A statement from Disney, I didn't get the person who said it, but a direct quote. Disney said it was blank, or quote, developed to be relevant to kids and families around the world and to reflect themes of diversity and inclusiveness. So a Disney win right there. They don't have very many wins. They take a lot of.
That's one.
There's a lot of L's that Disney takes, but
they gotta win.
We'll take a 2013 win because at the same time, Korra could barely show two women holding hands. You know, that's what they could. That's what they could portray on Nickelodeon. So in 2014, so you know, we'll take it. The pilot was shot in February of 2009. So shot in February 2009, and then it premiered. I didn't actually write down the premiere date, I guess. I just wrote down when it was shot.
That's fine.
2010, sometime in 2010. And it was shot on a weekly schedule, so scripts would come out and they would shoot within the week. Like, it was basically every week they were shooting a new script. And most of the time it was shot in front of a live studio audience, but sometimes they shot things off single cam or multicam, but with no audience, depending on the context. The series premiered to 4.7 million viewers, which was the highest rated premiere since The Sweet Life on Deck had its series premiere. And that's all I got. So, and mostly positive reviews of the show. So, my summary. In a middle-class family not living a luxurious life during the Great Recession, an oops baby is born, and everyone has to step up and adjust to the new change. Teddy, the oldest middle child, daughter, tries to kiss a hot boy and take care of her sister while juggling her brothers and fathers of questionable parenting. Will she succeed, or will her father steal her kiss instead?
My favorite...
No, go ahead. You go first.
Oh, my favorite thing about this show is that the girl who plays Teddy is like a CEO of like a space company.
Well, she has a PhD.
Yeah.
She doesn't act anymore. She's like it's a space company.
She runs.
She adopted a child recently.
Yeah, she like runs like
she's living
this
a great
whole
life.
ass company. That's so funny to me.
I'm like, good for you, you know?
This show is one I never watched, but I always heard a lot about it.
It's really weird because I feel like it's really relevant to our life because the mom is a night shift nurse. Yeah. Which I don't... Like, growing up, I didn't know anybody whose had a parent who worked a night shift. Because that was, like, the only people who, like, that had that kind of, like, family dynamic.
And you also didn't really see it on TV.
You didn't see it on TV. Because all the, like... I feel like a lot of, like, medical personnel were always, like, daytime.
Right.
At least in children's... portrayed in children's shows. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Because I'm like, that I probably would have liked to see that when I was younger.
When you were a kid, yeah.
I mean, in 2010, I think that's about when we had aged out. So, you know, I remember hearing about the show. I remember hearing good things about the show, but I've never seen any of it. No. Like, I have no concept of what the show was. Same. And honestly, I thought it was a pretty solid pilot.
Yeah, I was impressed. Like, I knew going into it, I kind of had expectations because I remember always hearing good things about it. And, like, people who had, like, younger siblings would kind of, like, tell me about it and say they would watch it with them. And I felt like there were some scenes that were so ridiculous they were almost funny, like the baby fly. Also, I was laughing when you were talking about the twins because that baby looked so fake in the blanket when he was just carrying it around.
Clearly, yeah.
It was so fake. But,
absolutely.
I don't know. I thought, like... the family dynamic was pretty interesting, and it did, like, it gave me a lot of, like, reminders of our childhood, because it was, like, there were times when, like, we kind of, not, like, necessarily were on our own, but we kind of were, like, doing our own thing, just because we had two parents who worked, and they worked opposite shifts, and...
Right. And you do, like, you get taken from one parent to a soccer practice, and the other parent, so you'd have to grab make sure you had all your homework, had all your stuff, you couldn't leave it in a car... You know,
Yeah.
be like, all right, here you go with this parent.
Yeah.
They're gonna take you home.
And so, yeah, I thought there was some, like, funny moments, and I really liked Teddy. I liked her as a character.
Well, also, I'm also a middle child
Right.
daughter, so I'm like, that always relate to that type of character.
Yeah, and you can tell that she, like, has a lot of responsibility that she kind of is put in charge of and takes on. But I like that she kind of does it, like, she does it, but she's still, like, trying to make the best of the situation.
I agree, yeah.
Which I like, and I thought the sibling dynamic was pretty good. I kind of thought it was funny how there was this running joke that, like, the boy who's, like, the third youngest was kind of just like, I haven't eaten all day. And I was like, because kids do kind of, like, that's the thing you hear, like, when you have a new baby, like, kids kind of get forgotten a little bit.
Because it's just, you're so busy with everything else.
Yeah. The one thing that kind of bothered me was, like, how the dad didn't even know the elementary school, like, the name of the school, and I was like,
the clueless father.
They, like, were doing it a bit too much throughout the show.
Agree. I was like, all right, like, he doesn't even know his own kid's birthday.
Yeah.
Like,
that was weird.
I feel like that was a little aged, a little.
They
dated.
did it too much.
Yeah, it was a little dated for the time it came out.
But I liked the mom and how, like, she panicked and she's like, I can't work anymore, like, because I'm letting my kids down and like stuff's going on and like I need to be home, like having that like guilt of trying to go back to work and have a career. So yeah, I thought I was definitely intrigued by it, and I thought it was funny.
Done.
There was like it did give me Full House vibes with like the wholesome moments. Like the sit down moments.
I felt cringe over this date, but it was like, but it was like a cringe that worked. Where I'm
because it's kind of like how it is. It's like that awkward teenage. Yeah.
I will say, the one thing I don't like, and we've talked about this in various other shows, but it's like, her older brother has his friends where he's like, she doesn't know we're in a relationship yet. And I'm all right.
It was creepy.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't like that type of dynamic. We talked about this ABC Family pilots. They had a lot of stuff like that where it's just like, I'm like, all right. I'm like, I don't care for this, but you know, sure.
They do it a lot, and it's just kind of this weird. I think they think it's like good humor.
It's funny, haha. Like, he's a hopeless romantic.
It's kind of just creepy.
She's not yeah, I know. So I'm like, all right, didn't love that, but
yeah.
But you know, I like the physical comedy. I thought worked. It wasn't too over the top. I liked her older brother was like, oh, gotta. Well, the one thing he's like, are you Indian? And he's like, we prefer Native American. I was like, that's
when he was
funny.
wearing the doctor's coat.
But but very clearly not his last name that fit.
Right.
Yeah. But I was like, that's kind of funny.
And then he gets like paged overhead, and he's like, well, I guess I gotta go. Like,
I also liked the line I wrote down is, you promised me you weren't gonna drop this one.
Oh yeah, that was like, funny.
This one? I was like, which?
Yeah, I wrote that down as my favorite line.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot.
Yeah, I mean, funny. I just think it worked, like...
Yeah.
In some of the ways that some of these other shows didn't work, it didn't feel like they were trying, like, too hard. Like, I think a lot of the humor just came from, like, the dynamic of the family and the relationships, and it wasn't like they were just trying to write... Minus, like, the friend thing, it wasn't like they were just trying to write stuff in to, like, get a laugh out of people.
Right.
But yeah, so I overall was impressed by it.
The last thing I want to touch on, though, is the representation of middle class to not show the rich and famous. I'm like, your house, they're not living a luxurious life. And I'm like, okay, sure.
It's hard. It's like you said, like, because middle class can mean so many things, and like middle class in like a state that's like extremely wealthy, like
Denver, you know,
compared to like somewhere else, like it can vary. But I think also like they have a very skewed perception of like what actually
well, because I'm just like relatively looking at the parents. Like, our mom was a nighttime nurse and our dad worked in like a mechanical type field. Like, your dad's an exterminator. Like, if you compare like that type of similar types of jobs of two parents, it's like I don't see like that level of wealth with that type of family, right?
Yeah, I think their way of trying to do it was, like, by their jobs and also, like, oh, look how messy this house is. Which, like, having a messy house doesn't mean that you're middle class. But I don't, that was, I think, their way of trying to do it was, like, look how messy this is.
It's like, when you look at, like, That's So Raven, like, their house is objectively smaller.
Yeah.
And I'm like, of course they live in San Francisco, so that makes sense. But it's, like, weird to be, like... I don't know. So that I was like, all right, but that's also a 2009 representation of middle class to be like, because I mean, like Hannah Montana, they have like a luxurious beach house in California, like probably in Malibu or something. So it's like, yeah, of course.
Which I don't, in that, like, they're not saying that they are middle class because she's like obviously very successful.
Not, yeah. But I was just like, okay.
Yeah, sure. It is a bit weird.
Yeah.
But that's also like a company for you.
It's also a television show. It's not
also
real
very
life,
like 2000s to just be like, this is what it is.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I said Teddy was my favorite character.
I like Teddy.
I thought she had a lot of responsibilities, but I liked the talk she had with her younger brother, and I thought she did a good job of like handling everything, but still like trying to have it all, basically.
Yeah. I thought she was an
and I just
character.
thought she was a good character. Yeah.
I agree. I liked her as well. I also liked the mom. I think would probably be a runner-up, would be their mom, but she wasn't in a lot of the episodes.
No, she wasn't really in it much. The line, "You promised me you weren't going to drop this one," I just thought was funny.
I thought so too.
And the scene with the baby was like so ridiculous when he threw it in the air that it almost was funny because it was just like slow motion.
And he just like slid down the stairs and then like caught her at the end. Yeah.
And then the part where he's like, "I'm gonna have to go to the hospital," and she in slow motion was like, "No," and it was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. She's like, okay, sure.
Like it was just funny how they dropped it, but
I thought that was good. Yeah, I agree. So would I watch? Maybe. I kind of was impressed with the pilot, like for having not really knowing anything about the show and it being a little bit aged out of where we were watching.
Right.
You know, I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
It was kind of the one show where I didn't have a nostalgic factor, where I was like, oh, like, I didn't have a bad time watching that show.
I, like, actively watched the whole thing. I paid attention. I thought the characters were interesting. Like, certainly some of the tropes where you're like, all right, like, I'm not... But again, it's, like, the time it came out. You can kind of look at it.
And I've heard a lot of good things about it, so, like, I feel like it's a solid show, so...
I agree.
I think we would have watched it if we were a little bit younger.
I think if we were a little younger...
If it had aired, like, close...
I think we probably would have definitely watched it.
Yeah, because, like you said, it would have been nice to see, like, someone portrayed as being, like, oh, your mom's gone at nighttime, and like the dad takes, you know what I mean? Like it is an interesting dynamic that they don't show a ton, or at least didn't show, a ton.
Or at least I never saw like represented with anything that I like, you know, yeah. All right. Now we rank. Got 8 shows.
Okay. The only thing I was gonna say is I feel like this ranking was very like very easy at the bottom.
And then it got a little harder
towards the top, but there was like a couple where I just immediately shoved him to the bottom. Yeah. So, yeah.
I agree. I can go first. So, I don't think this is any surprise. Number 8, Dog with a Blog. It's terrible. Yeah. Don't watch it. Didn't like it.
Yeah. Number 8's Dog with a Blog. It sucked. It was dog shit, as Alyssa said.
Yeah. Yeah. Real dog shit. Number 7, I won't just roll with it. I think the concept at least is interesting. Yeah. But I don't think it was executed super well. And as a pilot, it wouldn't make me want to watch it based on what I saw.
Yeah, I put 7 as just rolled it as well. I feel like the problem with that one going forward is like it's always going to be interrupted like that, and it doesn't allow for you to like fully get invested in the show when it's constantly like interrupted.
Number 6, I put Pretty Freaking Scary. I thought it was a pretty good, interesting pilot. I just think, again, it came out last year, and it's a bit hard to watch something intended for children, like, for a modern audience, like, just in terms of just, like, dialogue and choices made in the type of show it is, so.
Yeah, I put 6 as Pretty Freaking Scary. Basically the same thing you said. It's a little bit harder to watch as an adult, knowing it's made for kids in this time, like, period.
Yeah. All right, this part, it got a little hard here. This is where I kind of feel like the top 5 are kind of, at least in a general sense, in a similar type of area. Mm-hmm. So number 5, I did Hannah Montana. Okay. I liked this pilot. I liked Hannah Montana. Like, I think the pilot is well done, but I'm like, if I'm looking at it, like, as a pilot with the rest of them, I think that's where I would put it, is like, at 5. Solid 5, though. Like, a solid 5.
Yeah. I put it as number 5, too. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's, like you said, it's a solid pilot. I just think that the other ones were done a little bit better.
So, this placement is a bit hard. And I'll explain, but, so number 4, I have That's So Raven. Specifically, one, because we didn't watch the real pilot. So, it's a little hard to judge based on that episode. But also, if I'm watching this episode and that's introducing me to the show, I don't know if that episode is like the best episode to be like, here's the premise of the show. Yeah. I like the show, but I'm like, as a pilot, like clearly it's not the real pilot, but I'm like, I don't know as a first episode if I'd be like, oh, this is like, I get it just from that. So I put that there because of that.
I agreed with you.
Oh, great. Okay.
I also put that so as number 4. I agree, because I think it's hard when it's not necessarily the pilot. We know it's not necessarily the pilot. And I agree. I think it's weird not having a main character in it. The dynamic's a little bit off, and I think it's one of those shows that like maybe was still trying to find its footing a little bit. Yeah. I certainly think there's like a lot more episodes I can think of that are a lot more memorable and like a lot of really good humor moments. But yeah, it's still like, it's very nostalgic to me though still, and I still love it.
Yeah. 2 and 3 I had a really hard time with picking. So I did Good Luck Charlie's number 3. Okay. But 2 and 3 were really close. I had to think about it a little bit. But I thought this was a really solid pilot, especially for having no nostalgic values to it. Like, I don't have any memories. I've never seen it. I've never watched any of the show. But I thought it really did a really good job of, like, showcasing what type of show it was, like, showcasing this, like, family dynamic. And, like, I get what the show's about. I understand, like, what like, the premise is and what it's going to be. And, like, so I get it. And I thought it was entertaining, so.
Yeah. I think we're about to have the same list.
Okay, are we? Okay.
Because number 3, I went back and forth on 2 and 3, but I put Go Luck Charlie's number 3. I think this was the show I was the most impressed with.
I agree.
And I think it did a really good job, like you said, of setting up, like, each character and, like, who they are and, like, kind of what their characteristics are. And, yeah, I just liked the dynamic. I thought it flowed really well. And it's, like, one of those shows where I was like, oh, I would not be mad to watch another episode of this.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Number 2, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I think this pilot is really funny. I think the humor still holds up pretty well. I like the family dynamics. I like this kind of like they're living in a hotel, like, you know, eccentric type vibe going on. And like some of the characters, like the bellhop Esteban and Armin, like some of those characters haven't been introduced yet who are also going to be in a lot of episodes. But I love Carrie. Carrie's a great mom.
Yeah.
I love the kind of silly hijinks dynamic. So I thought the pilot was well done as well.
Yeah, I mean, I put it as number 2 as well. I think Sweet Life has one of the better, like, comedy for, like, a kid's show. And I also think I like shows that just by virtue of the location can lead the story. Like, there's so many storylines that could come from kids living in a hotel. Like, we used to run around hotels, like, during soccer tournaments all the time.
Absolutely.
Like, literally like gremlins, just running around.
We played tag. We played tag in hotels.
So it's like, this is very realistic, because if kids lived in a hotel, they would just, like, do this shit all the time. And yeah, I just, Carrie Martin for the win, an icon. If I ever become a mom, I want to be just like her, except for a singer, because I'm not a good singer. But yeah, I just, great. Yeah. But not as good as
Lizzie McGuire.
McGuire.
I kind of like had a feeling it was going to be number 1. Maybe if we had watched the actual That's Sort of pilot, it'd be a little different. I feel like that'd be a higher. But it's a really well done pilot. I think it sets up the show really well. Like, it introduces the characters. It gives you the family dynamic. I think it's well done. Like, it's a done episode that I think, like, showcases what the show is with, like, the kind of animated character. And, like, feels very wholesome, feels very realistic.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if, like, somebody who is a child watching that show would, like, again, because it is, like, from 2001, so it's over 20 years old. Like, I don't know if it would feel the same to someone who's young now, but I think to my opinion, it held up well.
Yeah. I agree. It is hard to picture that, though. But yeah. I do. I think it's relatable, and I think it's, like, they do a really good job of family dynamic, and I think a lot of very, like, talented kid actors, too, that feel very, like, genuine and real, and, yeah,
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Look at that. We perfectly lined up. It's been a while since we've done that.
I know. It's been a long time since, we've had the exact same ranking. Yeah. What's funny is I did mine in about 2 minutes during this episode because I forgot to do it.
I did mine while you were getting the rest of the background in like 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, on our quick rankings, we are the same. I had the same feelings. Not too shocking, but...
Do you want to read them for the both of us?
So our order from last to first is Dog with a Blog, Just Roll With It, Pretty Freaking Scary, Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, Good Luck Charlie, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, and then Lizzie McGuire, number 1 pilot.
Yeah.
Glad we finally got to do this, because this has been like
we've
almost
had this one
a
planned
year.
since last year.
Yeah, we were going to do it in like June of last year.
We were like getting ready to film it too, or just start the
we were ready to like, we had like gotten the episodes. We even like figured out, okay, you're going to do this half, I'm going to do this half. Like we had gotten it set up.
And then the writer's strike
and then
came,
the writer's strike.
We're like, oh, we can't do this.
Like, just kidding. Oops.
But yeah, I am glad we did it. It's also like a very nostalgic place in our hearts.
Absolutely.
Disney Channel.
Or not, for some of the newer ones.
Well, yeah, but for some of these,
yeah,
and you can gaze into the future.
You can, and you can check out our social media to see what future episodes we've got going on. We have our email, r3podcast@gmail.com. We have Instagram. We have a letterbox. Feel free to email us or DM us if you have questions, comments, concerns. If you have any ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear them. Sometimes a lot of our episodes do come from family and friends that have ideas they give us, and a lot of times they're very fun, so always open to those. But yeah, we'll be back at some point with something. We'll see you later.
Bye.
We would like to thank Joseph McDade for our intro music. He provides free music available for all kinds of creative use. The song that we used is called Sunrise Expedition, and you can find it and his other music on his website, josephmcdade.com. If you would like to reach us, you can email us at r3podcasts@gmail.com. That's R3 podcasts@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Instagram by searching Research Rank Repeat.
All right, now I'm recording. I'm not going to touch anything.
Don't touch.
Don't touch anything.
Don't you dare do it.
You didn't say anything about a bat.
About a bat.
Had one.
Well, if this sucks, we can pivot.
Okay.
Pivot,
of course.
Although maybe this isn't a good idea. We'll try it. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Everyone hates us.
They already do.